Welcome to Lecture 17, 2.5, Applications of Linear Equations and Modeling. So, for Objective 1, we're going to apply the point-slope formula, which we learned before, and remember, point-slope formula is y, oops, that's a bad y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alright, for example 1, write an equation of the line passing through the points negative 5, 2, and negative 3, 7. Alright, so when we're writing the equation of a line, we have two options, right? We have y equals mx plus b, which is the slope-intercept formula, or the point-slope formula right here. Now, they're different in what they need to be filled out. So, the slope-intercept, it's basically what it's named. It needs the slope and the intercept. So this one's a lot more specific, which makes it harder to use. However, the point-slope form only needs a point and the slope. Those are very general. So let's look at what we have. We have 2 points. None of them are the intercepts, so we don't have the intercept, and we also don't have the slope. But we know we can create the slope using 2 points. So we're going to go ahead and use the point-slope formula to go ahead and write our equation. So let me clean this up real quick. Okay, so we're going to use the point-slope formula. Always a good idea to write down the equation. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Now, once again, to fill this out, I need the slope and a point. Does it matter which one of these points I pick to fill in here and here? The answer is no. It doesn't matter because they're both on the line. I just like to pick the one with smaller numbers. So I'll go ahead and choose negative 5, 2. You could pick the other one if you wanted to, and they'd end up with the same answer in the end. So 2, negative 5. Now all we need is a slope. So to find slope, oops, wrong way. Slope, we have m equals y sub 1 minus y sub 2 over x sub 1 minus x sub 2. I'll go ahead and label the points I'm given and then fill this out. So the points I'm given, let's see. I'll call these the sub 1s and the other ones the sub 2s. So filling this out, we have 2 minus 7, and then in the bottom we have negative 5 minus negative 3. This simplifies out too, so 2 minus 7, that'll be negative 5, and then we have negative 5 minus negative 3, so that'll be negative 5 plus 3, which will be negative 2. We can simplify and get rid of the negatives, and we have 5 over 2. Now, as mentioned before, we usually leave slope in the improper fraction form, unless otherwise told to do differently. So there's our slope, 5 over 2. And we can write our equation, y minus 2 equals 5 over 2 times x minus negative 5. And let's go ahead and simplify this. Y minus 2 equals 5 over 2 times x plus 5. Now once again, this is a perfectly acceptable form for any equation of a line. If they wanted it in slope-intercept form, you would have to solve along until you got y by itself with your x value and numbers on the other side. But since they didn't state that, we're going to go ahead and keep with the simple equation of the line. Now let's look at Objective 2. Determine the slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. Alright, so let's see real quick. What are parallel and perpendicular lines? Parallel lines run parallel to each other. They're always staying the exact same distance away from each other and they never intersect. Perpendicular lines, however, they cross each other. And when they cross each other, they create a very special angle, which is a right angle. Okay, so that's perpendicular lines. Now, the symbols for parallel and perpendicular lines are as follows. So this is the symbol for parallel lines, and this is the symbol for perpendicular lines. Alright, now let's take a look. The slope of 2 parallel lines are the same. For example, if one line had a slope of m equal 2, the other line that's perpendicular to it would have m equals 2 as the slope as well. However, if we take a look at the slope of two perpendicular lines, the lines are opposite, reciprocal. So, if, for example, the one line had m equals 2 over 3, positive 2 over 3 is the slope, the other line that's perpendicular to this will have a slope that's the, let's see, what's the opposite? Opposite is talking about plus or minus. Okay, so this was positive, which means our new one is going to be a negative. Let me do that in red. Negative. And then what does reciprocal mean? Well, that means the flip. So I would go ahead and flip this, which means it would be 2 over 3 instead. Sorry, it'd be 3 over 2 instead. So this is the opposite reciprocal, of that. And that's what perpendicular lines would be for slope. Now let's take a look at example 2. Given the line 4x minus 3y equals 6, identify what the slope would be of a line parallel to it, and what the slope would be for a line perpendicular to it. Okay, so we're going to try to figure out first what the slope is. Okay, and then we can go ahead and fiddle with that. So with this, how do we find the slope with an equation? Well, I know that in y equals mx plus b form, the slope is whatever's next to the x. Okay. Careful though. Don't say that 4 is the slope. Why can't I say 4 is the slope? Because it's not in the correct form yet. We need to solve for y first. So let's go ahead and solve for y. If you want to pause the video and try to solve for y by yourself, that would be a good idea. Alright, so solve for y. We have 4x minus 3y equals 6. Solving for y, subtract 4x from both sides. Negative 3y equals negative 4x plus 6. Almost solved for y, so let's go ahead and divide by negative 3 from both sides. Y equals 4 over 3x minus 2. Okay, so this is my equation. Now, what is the slope? The slope is 4 over 3. So m equals 4 over 3. Now, the slope for a parallel line. Remember, for a parallel line, it's the exact same thing. So we would have m equal 4 over 3. But how about the slope for a perpendicular line? Well, it needs to be the opposite. So what's the opposite of a positive 4 over 3? That's going to be negative. And then it needs to be the reciprocal. So what's the reciprocal of 4 over 3? It's going to be 3 over 4. All right, now let's take a look at example 3. Write an equation of a line passing through the point 5, negative 6, and perpendicular to the line 3y plus 2x equals 6. Feel free to pause the video and then try this by yourself and check back in with me in a second. All right, so hopefully you tried this by yourself. So write an equation of the line. The equation that always comes to mind for me that's easiest to use whenever I see the phrase write an equation of a line is the point slope formula. So I'm going to use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. What do I need to fill this out? I need the slope and a point. What am I given? Well, I'm told we have this point, and then, oh weird, look at this. It's perpendicular to this line. I'm not actually given my slope, right? All I'm given is a point. Okay, but I needed a point, so that's good. So the other information must be what helps me find the slope. And it does. Remember, if we're talking about perpendicular lines, we know the relationship. This one may not be my line, but I know if I find the slope of this line, I just take the opposite reciprocal and it'll be my slope. So that's going to be my plan. We're just going to use this equation and find the slope. But first, I'll go ahead and plug in the point that I do have. So for y, I have -6, and for x, I have 5. Now let's find slope. Okay, so to find slope, I'm going to get this in slope-intercept form. Remember, y equals mx plus b. Then whatever's near the x will be my slope. So solving for x, solving for y, we'll subtract x from both sides, and we get 3y equals -2x plus 6. Divide both sides by 3, and we have y equals -2/3x plus 2. What's the slope? Well, the slope is 2/3. So real quick, the slope is not going to be 2/3x. We do not include the x with this. It's just going to be 2/3. But that's the slope of this line, not my line. Remember, my line has a perpendicular slope. So my line slope, so our slope is the opposite. What's the opposite of a negative? Positive. And then we take the reciprocal. So 3/2. All right, then we can plug that in. 3/2. And we have y minus -6 equals 3/2 x minus 5. Simplifying, we have y plus 6 equals 3/2 times x minus 5. Once again, we can leave it in this form unless we're told to do otherwise. Now let's take a look at objective 3, creating linear functions to model data. Alright, so for example 4, playing badminton at a local club costs $40 for a yearly membership and $10 each time you play. If you do not have a membership, it costs $13 each time you play. So for A, write a linear function n of x in dollars for the cost of playing badminton at the local club as a non-member for x number of days. Okay, so what do we know here? Well, x is going to be our number of days, and we're trying to find out how much it would cost for x number of days. Well, what do I know? I know that one time I go there would cost $13, right? So let's make a little chart on the side. It's my scratch work here. So let's pick a number of days. So we'll say days and dollars. But remember, days and dollars, we're actually told that days is x and dollars is n of x. All right. So for one day to play, how much would it cost me? $13. If I played 2 days, how much would it cost me? Well, $13 plus $13, which would be $26. Or a way I could write that is 2 times 13 is 26. If I played 3 days, how much would it cost me? Well, 3 times 13, right? Would equal, what is that, 39. And so on. So if you'll notice, there's a pattern here. What we do is we take the number of days and multiply it by the cost, which is $13. So my function is going to be n of x equals the $13, which always stays the same, times x. So in order to find out how much I paid, for example, for 5 days, I would just plug in 5 here and then do 13 times 5 to find out how much I spent. Okay, so we found a formula there. Or sorry, a linear function. Now try to see if you can find the linear function for part B by yourself. Well, for part B, we're trying to write a linear function m of x. So instead of n, m of x in dollars for the cost of playing badminton at the local club as a member for x days. Well, what would that look like for my scratch work? We have x and we have m of x this time. So if I play 1 day, it's going to be, I have that base pay of $40, right? So I have $40 plus, let's see, I pay $10 each time I play, right? $10, and then the $40 for yearly membership. So that would be 40 plus 10, which would be $50. If I played, or if I went for 2 days, that would be the same thing. I spent $40 originally, plus 2 times the $10, which would be, I spent $60 total. If I played 3 days, I still have paid that 40 base, plus 3 times the 10 would give me $70. Now notice, this is not the amount I'm spending each day. This is the amount total for that year. Okay, keep that in mind. So what are we noticing here? There's a pattern. We have the base rate of 40, which never changes because I paid that in the beginning, right? So I have m of x equals $40 that I paid the very beginning, plus, well, depending on the number of days I go that year, my amount would change. If I went twice, it'd be 2 times 10. So it's 10 times however many days I go. All right, let's rewrite this so it's in the normal order we see with the variable first. So I'll rewrite it as 10x plus 40. Okay, the base pay of 40, and then the $10, which changes however many times I play. So if I went and played twice, that'd be 10 times 2 plus the base pay, and so on. So we have the 2 different options. We have if you're a member or if you're a non-member. Now let's compare them. What does it cost of playing 4 days as a non-member compared to 4 days as a member? Well, as a member, it's always good to clearly state what you're solving for. So as a member, m of x equals, our formula was 10x plus 40. And as a non-member, our formula was n of x equals 13x. So we're looking for x being 4, because remember, x is the number of days. So we're going to go ahead and replace this with 4. Wherever we see x, we're going to replace with 4. And solve. So m of 4 equals 10 times 4 plus 40. M of 4 is 40 plus 4d, which is $80 if you played 4 times in that year. However, if we look at n of x for non-member, we're going to have, replacing with 4, n of 4 equals 13 times 4, and 13 times 4 is going to be 52. So, what is the comparison? The cost of playing 4 days as a member is $80 and $52 as a non-member. Period. So far, if you only go 4 days in a year, it looks like being a non-member is cheaper than being a member. But then there's this question. At what number of days would the cost of being a non-member equal that of being a member? So what we're trying to figure out is, when is being non-member equal to being a member? Well, what's the formula for a non-member? The formula for a non-member is n of x equals 13x. So n of x. And we're trying to figure out when this is equal to m of x. Okay, so that's what we're trying to figure out, when those two are equal. So let me go ahead and erase that, clean this up. Alright, so solving. We want to know when m of x equals n of x. And m of x, remember by our formula, is 10x plus 40. And n of x is 13x. And we're going to solve for x. And when we find that x, that will tell me the number of days it would take for them to be equal. So let's go ahead and solve for x. This is a linear equation. How do I know that? Because there's no power of 2 anywhere. So I'll go ahead and subtract 10x from both sides. And we get that 40 equals 3x. And divide both sides by 3. I get 40 divided by 3. So it doesn't come out perfectly. It comes out to about, and I'm going to go ahead and round here. Rounding to the closest whole number of days would be actually 14 if I was looking at the whole number of days. Okay. If you rounded to 13, that would be okay because I did not include what to round to. So my answer would be, at about 14 days, the membership price would equal, the membership cost, not price. The membership cost would be equal to the non-membership. Okay, so what would I take away from this? Well, if I plan to go less than 14 days in the year, I would probably stick with the non-membership plan because that would be cheaper. If I plan to go for more than 14 days, then I'd probably go with the membership cost. Alright, so here we go. Next question. At what number of days would the cost of being a member be less than the cost of being a non-member? So this question is a little different. What we're trying to figure out this time is when a member, okay, so that was m of x, would be less than, so we're just looking for less than, not equal to, less than the cost of being a non-member. So when is m of x less than n of x? Alright, so almost the same equation, but this time we have that less than symbol. We'll plug in the values, so 13x. Once again, we'll go ahead and solve. So minusing the 10x, minusing the 10x. And then we get 40 is less than 3x, divide both sides by 3. And we have, once again, about approximately 14. So, to approximate this, I'll do that little wiggle symbol above it. So my answer would be, at what number of days would the cost of being a member be less than? So at 14 days or beyond, the cost of being a member will be cheaper than being a non-member. Period. Okay, and this same concept would apply for any sort of a membership you're looking at. If you're looking at a gym membership, you could go ahead and write this out, figure things out, which gym is cheaper. Or if you're looking at phone plans, these kind of problems are really helpful in just doing small little comparisons between different items. Okay, so if you have any questions about this homework, please email me.